Edward the Black Prince. Edward the Black Prince, born on June 15, 1330, in Woodstock, Oxfordshire, was the eldest son of King Edward III of England and Philippa of Hainault. His birth placed him in direct line for the English throne, and from an early age he was groomed for leadership and military command. He was created Prince of Wales in 1343, a title that affirmed his status as the heir apparent. His nickname, the Black Prince, came either from the fact that he defeated enemy forces of overwhelming strength on multiple occasions, or his armor, which was dark in color. Edward's military career began in earnest during the 100 Years' War, a prolonged conflict between England and France. His first major engagement was at the Battle of Crecy in 1346, where he commanded the vanguard of the English army at just 16 years old. The battle was a decisive victory for the English, and Edward's leadership and bravery on the field earned him widespread acclaim. His effective use of longbowmen and dismounted knights against the French cavalry was a tactical innovation that would characterize many of his future campaigns. One of Edward's most significant victories came at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356. Leading an English force, he faced a much larger French army under King John II. Edward's use of defensive positions, combined with his strategic deployment of archers and cavalry, led to a stunning English victory. The French king was captured, and the ransom demanded for his release further strained France's resources. This battle solidified Edward's reputation as one of the finest military commanders of his time. Edward's later years were marred by illness and declining health. He contracted dysentery, which plagued him for the rest of his life. Despite his condition, he continued to participate in military campaigns and political affairs. His health continued to deteriorate, and he died on June 8, 1376, at Westminster Palace, a year before his father. His death was a significant blow to the English monarchy, as his son, Richard II, was only 10 years old when he ascended the throne. El Cid. El Cid Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, known as El Cid, was born around 1043 in Vivar, a small town near Burgos in the Kingdom of Castile. He emerged from the minor nobility and quickly gained prominence as a military leader and knight during the Reconquista, the Christian effort to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule. His nickname, El Cid, comes from the Spanish El Señor and the Arabic Al Sayyid, meaning the Lord or Master. El Cid initially served under King Sancho II of Castile and played a key role in the conquest and vassalization of the Muslim-ruled Taifa of Zaragoza. After Sancho's assassination, he served King Alfonso VI, but his unauthorized excursion into Granada after the lost Battle of Cabra in 1079 angered the king, which led to his exile. During this period, El Cid offered his services as a mercenary to Muslim rulers in Zaragoza, where he was responsible for numerous victories, particularly the Battle of Almanar and Morella. His most famous campaign was the conquest of Valencia in 1094, where he led a combined force of Moors and Christians, carving out a principality which he officially ruled in the name of King Alfonso, but in practice was fully independent under El Cid. He and his wife lived in Valencia until his death in 1099, of an illness which came after he defeated Almoravid besiegers in 1094. During his life, El Cid has gained the respect of both Christian and Muslim rulers on the Iberian Peninsula. He was able to carve out his destiny during the time of Spanish turmoil and lead many men into victory, regardless of religion or political allegiances, and leave a permanent mark on Spanish history. William Marshal. William Marshal, known as the greatest knight of his age, was born around 1146 in Wiltshire, England. Coming from a minor noble family, William's early life was marked by hardship. As a boy, he was held as a hostage by King Stephen during an English civil war in order to ensure his father's obedience. Despite threats of execution due to his father's defiance, William survived and was reprieved after King Stephen took a liking to him, which marked the beginning of his eventful life. William Marshal's career was characterized by his exceptional skill in tournaments and on the battlefield. He began his knightly training in France, As a young warrior, shortly after being knighted, he fought his first battle defending Upper Normandy alongside William de Tankerville and his retinue. He quickly gained fame through his prowess in combat tournaments, eventually becoming the greatest tournament champion of his generation. During his time, Marshal served several English monarchs, including Henry II, Henry the Young King, whom he trained and knighted, Richard Lionheart, and John. His bond with Henry the Young King was particularly deep. For years he was loyal to Henry, supporting him in the rebellion against his father, entering tournaments with him, leading his retinue of knights, and even undertaking a crusade to the Holy Land when asked by Henry on his deathbed. One of his most significant military achievements was at the Battle of Lincoln in 1217, where he played a decisive role in defeating the forces of Prince Louis of France and the rebellious English barons, securing the future of the young King Henry III. Apart from his military feats, William Marshal's legacy includes his contributions to the chivalric code and the governance of England. As Earl of Pembroke, he managed his estates efficiently, setting an example of good lordship. His involvement in the drafting and enforcement of the Magna Carta showcased his commitment to justice and the rule of law. When Richard the Lionheart was crusading in the Holy Land, William was appointed as a member of the Regent Council responsible for governing England during Richard's absence. During that time, he earned a reputation of fierce loyalty and integrity, which earned him great respect from his peers and superiors. William Marshal died on May 14, 1219, at the age of about 72. He was buried in the Temple Church in London, a testament to his close association with the Knights Templar to which he was invested before death. Götz von Berlichingen. Götz von Berlichingen, also known as Götz of the Iron Hand, was born around 1480 in the German region of Franconia. His birthplace was the castle of Jagsthausen, where he grew up amidst the turmoil of the late medieval Holy Roman Empire. Götz hailed from a family of minor nobility, and his early life was typical of a young nobleman, involving training in the martial skills necessary for knighthood. Götz is most famous for his iron prosthetic hand, which he acquired after losing his right hand in the Siege of Landshut in 1504. This injury did not end his military career. Instead, it marked the beginning of his legendary status. Götz had an iron hand fashioned for him, which allowed him to continue wielding weapons and riding into battle. This earned him the moniker Götz of the Iron Hand, and became his defining characteristic. Throughout his life, Götz was involved in numerous feuds, battles, and campaigns, often siding with those who resisted the central authority of the Holy Roman Emperor. He participated in the Swabian War, 1499, and fought for the Duchy of Bavaria during the Landshut War of Succession, 1504 to 1505. One of Götz's most significant involvements was in the German Peasants' War, 1524 to 1525, where he was reluctantly appointed a leader of the peasant forces. Despite his noble background, Götz sympathized with the peasants' plight and accepted their request for leadership. However, his tenure as their commander was short-lived, as internal disputes and strategic disagreements led to his capture by the Swabian League. He was imprisoned, but managed to secure his release under the condition that he would cease his involvement in feuds. When invited to surrender by the Swabian League, Götz reportedly said to the scout that brung the letter from a Swabian general, "He can lick my ass." This anecdote helped popularize the phrase, which came to be called the Swabian Salute in his honor. Götz spent his later years writing his autobiography, which was first published in 1731. He died peacefully on July 23, 1562, at his castle in Hornburg, leaving behind a legacy of courage, resilience, and defiance. William Wallace. William Wallace, a towering figure in Scottish history, was born around 1270 in Elderslie, Renfrewshire. The son of a minor noble, Sir Malcolm Wallace, William grew up during a period of great political turmoil in Scotland. The death of King Alexander III and the subsequent power vacuum led to English attempts to dominate Scotland, setting the stage for Wallace's rise as a leader in the fight for Scottish independence. Wallace first came to prominence in 1297 with a series of bold military actions against the English. His initial victory at the Battle of Lanark, where he killed the English sheriff, sparked a wider rebellion. This success was followed by the decisive Battle of Stirling Bridge on September 11, 1297, where Wallace, alongside Andrew Moray, defeated a much larger English army through clever use of terrain and tactical innovation. Following his success at Stirling Bridge, Wallace was appointed Guardian of Scotland. In this role, he continued to organize and lead resistance against English occupation. However, his tenure was marked by internal struggles among the Scottish nobility and persistent English aggression. His most significant defeat came at the Battle of Falkirk on July 22, 1298, where King Edward I of England personally led his forces to victory. Wallace's troops were overwhelmed by superior English longbowmen and cavalry, forcing him to retreat and resign as Guardian. Despite his military setbacks, Wallace's commitment to Scottish independence never wavered. He continued to engage in guerrilla warfare, utilizing hit-and-run tactics, and his deep knowledge of the Scottish terrain to harass and disrupt English forces. Wallace's ability to inspire and lead men, even in the face of overwhelming odds, made him a symbol of Scottish resistance and tenacity. In 1305, he was captured near Glasgow by Sir John Menteith, a Scottish knight loyal to the English. Wallace was taken to London, where he was tried for treason and other charges. Refusing to acknowledge Edward I as his king, Wallace maintained that he had never sworn allegiance to the English crown. On August 23, 1305, he was executed in a brutal manner, being hanged, drawn, and quartered, a punishment reserved for traitors. His body parts were displayed across England as a warning to others, but legacy endured as a symbol of Scottish independence and resistance against oppression. Hugues de Payens. De Payens, born around 1070 in the Champagne region of France, was a nobleman who became the co-founder and first Grand Master of the Knights Templar. His early life remains somewhat obscure, but it is known that he was a vassal of Count Hugh of Champagne. His decision to join the First Crusade in 1096 marked the beginning of his significant contributions to medieval history. He is best known for establishing the Knights Templar around 1119. Together with 8 other knights, he formed a monastic military order dedicated to protecting Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Initially, the group faced significant challenges, operating with limited resources and members. However, their reputation for bravery and piety quickly grew, attracting the attention and support of powerful figures. Hugh's leadership and vision were instrumental in gaining official recognition and support for the Templars from the church and secular authorities. In 1129, with the backing of Bernard of Clairvaux, a leading church reformer, the Council of Troyes formally endorsed the Templars, granting them legitimacy and a rule of conduct. Although specific battles involving Hughs are not well documented, the Templars played crucial roles in key conflicts during the Crusades. They were involved in defending the Crusader states and protecting the vital pilgrim routes. The Order's reputation for martial prowess grew as they participated in numerous skirmishes and larger battles against Muslim forces. His strategic vision extended beyond the battlefield. He was adept at securing funding and political support for the Templars, which allowed the order to expand rapidly. The Templars established a network of preceptories across Europe, which served as training centers, administrative hubs, and sources of financial support. This network helped sustain their military efforts in the Holy Land and contributed to their long-term influence. He died in 1136, leaving behind a legacy of religious and military innovation. His leadership laid the foundation for the Templars to become one of the most powerful and influential military orders of the medieval period. Godfrey of Bouillon. Godfrey of Bouillon, born around 1060, was a prominent Frankish knight and leader during the First Crusade. As the son of Eustace II, Count of Boulogne and Ida of Lorraine, Godfrey inherited the title of Duke of Lower Lorraine, though his tenure was marked by initial struggles to assert his authority. Godfrey's most significant role came as one of the leaders of the First Crusade, which began in 1096. inspired by Pope Urban II's call to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. Godfrey sold much of his property to finance his expedition. He led a contingent of knights and soldiers through Hungary, Bulgaria, and Constantinople, securing safe passage through these territories. The First Crusade saw Godfrey participating in several key battles and sieges. His tactical acumen and bravery were evident during the Siege of Nicaea in 1097, where Crusader forces captured the city from the Seljuk Turks. Godfrey also played a crucial role in the Battle of Dorylaeum in 1097, where the Crusaders achieved a decisive victory despite being initially ambushed by Turkish forces. One of Godfrey's most notable achievements was his involvement in the Siege of Jerusalem in 1099. As one of the principal commanders, he led his troops in a relentless assault on the city, culminating in its capture on July 15, 1099. Following the conquest of Jerusalem, Godfrey was offered the title of King of Jerusalem, but declined, preferring the title Advocate of the Holy Sepulchre, reflecting his humility and devotion to the holy cause. His life was relatively short, as he died on July 18, 1100, in Jerusalem. The exact cause of his death is uncertain, with theories ranging from illness to a possible assassination. He was buried in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a fitting resting place for a leader who had dedicated his life to the Christian cause in the Holy Land. Henry Hotspur Percy, born on May 20, 1364, was a prominent English nobleman and military commander known for his fiery temperament and battlefield prowess. He was the eldest son of Henry Percy, 1st Earl of Northumberland, and Margaret Neville. Hotspur earned his nickname due to his impetuous nature and his relentless energy in battle. From a young age, he was involved in border skirmishes against the Scots, and his early military career was marked by a series of successful campaigns that enhanced his reputation. His valor and skill were recognized by King Edward III, who knighted him in 1377. Hotspur played a crucial role in the political and military upheavals of late 14th century England. During the reign of King Henry IV, Henry and his family initially supported Henry's claim to the throne. However, tensions soon arose over issues of loyalty, land, and authority, leading to a dramatic falling out between the Percys and the king. The conflict culminated in the Battle of Shrewsbury on July 21, 1403, one of the most famous battles of the period. Hotspur led a rebellion against Henry IV, seeking to assert his family's grievances and challenge the king's authority. The battle was marked by intense combat, and Hotspur's leadership and tactical acumen were on full display. However, despite initial successes, the rebel forces were ultimately defeated, and Hotspur was killed in the thick of the fighting, supposedly by an arrow shot by the son of Henry IV, Prince Henry of Wales. His death marked a turning point in the rebellion and solidified King Henry IV's control over the kingdom. Henry's tactics were characterized by bold and aggressive maneuvers, reflecting his impetuous nature. He excelled in cavalry charges and close-quarters combat, often leading from the front and inspiring his men with his fearlessness. His fiery spirit and relentless drive made him a legendary figure in English military history. Henry Hotspur Percy left a lasting legacy as one of England's most celebrated knights. His life and exploits have been immortalized in literature, most notably in the work of William Shakespeare, in Henry IV, Part 1. Zawisza the Black. Zawisza the Black, also known as
Zawisza Czarny,
was born around 1379 in
Stary Garbów,
in the Kingdom of Poland. He came from a noble family and became one of the most famous Polish knights of the medieval period. His epithet, the Black, is believed to come from the color of his armor, or the black hair and beard he was known for. Zawisza's early military career was marked by his participation in various tournaments and battles across Europe. His victories in numerous tournaments, including those in Hungary and the Holy Roman Empire, solidified his status as one of the preeminent knights of his time. One of Zawisza's most notable military engagements was the Battle of Grunwald, also known as the Battle of Tannenberg, in 1410. This pivotal battle saw the combined forces of Poland and Lithuania defeat the Teutonic Knights. Zawisza is said to have played a crucial role in this victory, protecting and retrieving the Polish royal banner from the hands of the Teutons, bolstering morale and ultimately leading to victory. Zawisza also served as an envoy and diplomat, utilizing his esteemed reputation to negotiate on behalf of the Polish crown. His diplomatic missions took him to various European courts. He was involved in negotiations with the Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund, and played a role in the Council of Constance, which aimed to resolve the Papal Schism, where he was one of the only diplomats that defended Jan Hus. During the council, he was also reportedly condemned by the Pope Martin V for stating that he will defend the Polish king using both word and a fist when accusations of heresy were made towards him and the Polish people. In addition to his martial and diplomatic achievements, Zawisza's adherence to the chivalric code made him a paragon of knightly virtues. He was renowned for his loyalty and sense of justice and honor. His contemporaries admired him not just for his physical strength and combat skills, but also for his moral integrity. Zawisza the Black's life came to a tragic end during the Battle of Golubach in 1428. He was part of a Christian coalition fighting against the Ottoman Turks. During the battle, he was captured and ultimately killed. His death was a significant loss to the Christian forces. Zawisza's legacy, however, continued to inspire future generations of Polish knights and soldiers. Bertrand du Guesclin. Bertrand was one of France's most celebrated military leaders during the Hundred Years' War, known for his tactical brilliance and fierce loyalty to the French crown. Born into minor Breton nobility, Bertrand was not initially expected to achieve greatness, but his tenacity and skill in battle elevated him to prominence. He earned the nickname the Black Dog of Brocéliande, referencing his origins in Brittany and his relentless nature in warfare. He first gained fame defending the city of Rennes against the English during the War of the Breton Succession, a civil war between rival claimants to the Duchy of Brittany. Although captured several times throughout his career, including at the Battle of Auray and the Battle of Nájera, Bertrand always managed to secure his release, often through large ransoms, due to his value to the French. One of his most significant achievements came in 1369, when he helped Henry of Trastamara defeat Pedro I of Castile at the Battle of Montiel, solidifying Henry's claim to the Castilian throne and securing a key alliance for France. This victory solidified his reputation and led to his appointment as Constable of France in 1370, making him the kingdom's top military commander under King Charles V. In this role, Bertrand led campaigns to reclaim French territories from English control, employing guerrilla tactics and avoiding large, decisive battles, a strategy known as Fabian warfare. His victories at Pont-Valin and Chaillé were key in reversing English gains. Despite his relentless success, Bertrand remained humble about his background, famously refusing the title of constable at first, citing his low birth. However, King Charles V insisted, knowing that Bertrand's military prowess was invaluable. He died in 1380, during a military campaign in Languedoc from dysentery. His death was mourned across France, and he was buried in the royal necropolis of Saint Denis, a rare honor for someone not of royal blood. Chevalier de Bayard. Born Pierre Terray, was a French knight renowned for his chivalry, bravery, and military skill. He became known as the Knight Without Fear and Beyond Reproach, a reputation that followed him throughout his life. Pierre was born into a noble family in Dauphine, southeastern France, and was trained as a page in the court of Charles I of Savoy. By the age of 20, he had become a knight after distinguishing himself a number of times in tournaments, and by taking part in the 1494 conquest of Naples. His first major battle came at Fornovo in 1495, where he played a key role in helping the French army escape an ambush by a combined Italian force. Another remarkable event was his defense of a bridge near Garigliano in 1503. Facing a Spanish ambush, the French were forced to retreat and regroup. Bayard led a unit of soldiers and defended the bridge, covering the retreat, holding off the enemy long enough for French forces to regroup. This act of heroism became one of the most famous moments in his career, even though the French eventually lost the battle. Throughout his life, de Bayard employed a combination of traditional chivalric tactics and emerging Renaissance military strategies. He excelled as a cavalry commander, but also adapted to the rise of gunpowder and infantry formations. He refused to plunder conquered cities, and treated even his worst enemies with dignity and respect. At the Siege of Brescia in 1512, Bayard led several charges into the heart of the city, rallying the troops multiple times after being pushed back. Despite being seriously wounded, his leadership allowed the French forces to eventually break into the city and achieve victory. His ability to inspire his troops, often leading from the front, became a hallmark of his leadership style. Unlike many commanders of the time, Bayard was admired not just by his men, but also by his enemies, who respected his fairness and honor in battle. Bayard's death in 1524 marked the end of an era for French chivalry. During the French retreat from Italy, he was struck by an arquebus shot while covering the retreat of French forces near the Zawisza River. Mortally wounded, he refused to be moved from the battlefield, requesting that his sword be placed in front of him as he died, facing his enemies. Even his Spanish foes, led by Charles III, the Duke of Bourbon, mourned his loss and recognized that a gallant and virtuous knight is being lost that day. Bayard's legacy endures as a symbol of the ideal knight, embodying the values of courage, loyalty, and chivalry. His life became the subject of several biographies and remains an inspiration in French and European military history. Nuno Álvares Pereira. Nuno Pereira, also known as the Holy Constable, was a key military leader in Portugal's struggle for independence from Castile during the late 14th century. Born as illegitimate son of a noble family of priors and bishops, Nuno began his military career at a young age, showing early signs of tactical brilliance. His rise to prominence came during the Portuguese interregnum, a period of political crisis, when the crown of Portugal was contested by King John I of Castile. Nuno was a staunch supporter of John of Aviz, who would become Portugal's king and lead the country through a critical phase of its history. One of Nuno's most significant victories came at the Battle of Atoleiros in 1384. With an outnumbered force, he used defensive tactics to defeat a larger Castilian army. He arranged his troops in a tight square formation, effectively countering Castilian cavalry charges. His victory not only boosted morale, but demonstrated his innovative use of tactics to outmaneuver larger forces. Another major success followed at the Battle of Aljubarrota in 1385, where Nuno commanded the right wing of the Portuguese army and faced his own brother Pedro, who died during the battle leading a Castilian host. This battle is one of the most famous in Portuguese history, as the Portuguese forces, again outnumbered, crushed the Castilian army, securing Portugal's independence. Nuno was known for his personal courage and his ability to inspire loyalty and respect from his soldiers. His life was marked by devoutness to God as he lived a life of austerity. After the end of the Portuguese-Castilian conflict and the death of his wife, he gradually retired from public life, contributing vast amounts of money towards building churches and supporting veterans of the war. He eventually became a lay Carmelite friar in Lisbon, where he took the name of Friar Nuno of St. Mary. At his deathbed in 1431, he was met for the last time by King John, whom he helped put on the throne in the last recognition of his contributions towards Portuguese independence. Nuno's military successes and personal piety made him a national hero in Portugal, which led to his canonization by the Catholic Church in 2009, where he was recognized as Saint Nuno of St. Mary. Bohemond I of Antioch, also known as Bohemond of Taranto, was a Norman nobleman and one of the most prominent leaders of the First Crusade. Born as the eldest son of Robert Guiscard, Duke of Apulia, Bohemond grew up in a family renowned for its military conquests in southern Italy and the Byzantine Empire. His upbringing in a warrior society and experience in his father's campaigns against the Byzantines in the 1080s helped shape his ambitions and military skills, which allowed him to play a central role in establishing Crusader states in the Levant. Bohemond first made a name for himself in the Byzantine-Norman Wars, where he led Norman forces against the Byzantines under Emperor Alexios I Komnenos. His campaign to seize Byzantine territory was ultimately unsuccessful, but it showcased his talent for siege warfare and bold strategy. Despite his failure in these wars, Bohemond gained a reputation as a formidable and ambitious commander, which he carried into the First Crusade. Bohemond's greatest achievement came during the First Crusade, where he emerged as one of the key leaders among the Christian forces. His most famous victory was the Siege of Antioch in 1098. After a grueling siege that lasted many months, Bohemond used cunning diplomacy to bribe an Armenian guard inside the city, allowing Crusader forces to breach Antioch's walls. Once inside, they captured the city and defended it against a massive counterattack by Muslim forces. Bohemond's role in this decisive victory earned him control of Antioch, where he established himself as its first prince, which made him one of the most powerful rulers in the newly established Crusader states. Tactically, Bohemond was known for his use of deception and psychological warfare. At Antioch, he not only managed to infiltrate the city, but also skillfully defended it through the use of feigned retreats and ambushes. His ability to inspire his men and outthink his enemies set him apart from many of his peers in the Crusader ranks. He was a fearless leader who often fought alongside his soldiers, building a reputation for bravery and charisma. Bohemond's ambitions did not stop with Antioch. In 1107, he launched a campaign against the Byzantine Empire, seeking to carve out additional territory for himself. However, this campaign ended in failure, as he was defeated by attrition during Siege of Dyrrhachium, and forced to sign the Treaty of Davos in 1108, acknowledging Byzantine overlordship over Antioch. Despite this setback, Bohemond retained his title as Prince of Antioch and remained a significant figure in Crusader politics until his death. Bohemond died in 1111, likely in Italy, where he had returned following his Byzantine campaign. His legacy as a military leader and crusader remained strong after his death, with his descendants continuing to rule Antioch for several generations. Archibald the Grim. Archibald was one of the most prominent Scottish military leaders of his time, earning his nickname due to his stern appearance and fearsome reputation in warfare. He was the illegitimate son of Sir James Douglas, also known as the Black Douglas, a legendary figure in the Scottish Wars of Independence. Despite his illegitimacy, Archibald rose to power through a combination of military skill, strategic marriages, and loyalty to the Scottish crown. Archibald's first major role in history came at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356, during the 100 Years' War. He accompanied his cousin, William, Lord of Douglas, to France to fight alongside King John II against the English army led by Edward the Black Prince. The battle ended in a disastrous defeat for the French, and Archibald was captured by the English. His captors considered him a valuable prisoner due to his fine armor, but he managed to escape through a clever ruse orchestrated by fellow prisoner Sir William Ramsay of Coluthi. Ramsay staged an argument, convincing the English that Archibald was a lowly servant, enabling his release with the payment of a significantly lower ransom than befitting someone of his pedigree. After returning to Scotland, Archibald rose to prominence. First, he became the Sheriff of Edinburgh in 1360, and became Lord of Galloway in 1369, consolidating his power in southern Scotland. He built and fortified Threave Castle, which became his main power base. He was appointed Warden of the Western March, a key role in defending the Scottish borders against English incursions. His leadership in border warfare was marked by the use of aggressive raids and the capture of strategic locations, such as Lochmaben Castle in 1384, which had been held by the English for decades. His ability to secure and defend these territories alongside him, inheriting even more land after his cousin James Douglas died in battle, made him one of the most powerful nobles in Scotland. Archibald also played a key diplomatic role, being sent on embassies to France in 1369 and 1371 to renew the Auld Alliance, the Franco-Scottish military pact. His influence continued to grow when he married Joanna de Moray, an heiress whose lands brought him significant wealth and power, further strengthening his position within the Scottish nobility. Archibald's military successes and his ability to maintain a stronghold in Galloway distinguished him from his peers. Although not many records of his prowess in single combat exist, his grim reputation among the English, who gave him his nickname, reflected his effectiveness in warfare and his role in pushing English forces out of southern Scotland. Archibald the Grim died in 1400 at Threave Castle, leaving behind a legacy as one of the most powerful and fearsome Scottish warlords of his era. Balian of Ibelin. Balian of Ibelin was a prominent Crusader noble and a key figure in the Kingdom of Jerusalem during the late 12th century. As the youngest son of Bertrand of Ibelin, he inherited the small but strategic lordship of Ibelin. His marriage to Maria Comnena, the widow of King Amalric I of Jerusalem, elevated his status, granting him control of the important city of Nablus and aligning him with the royal family. Balian's military career was defined by his role in the defense of the Kingdom of Jerusalem during the rise of Saladin. He fought at the disastrous Battle of Hattin in 1187, where the Crusader army was decimated by Saladin's forces. Balian managed to escape the battle, one of the few nobles to do so, and retreated to Tyre. Later that same year, Balian became the de facto leader of the defense of Jerusalem, when he was asked by the city's inhabitants to stay and protect them, despite having sworn to Saladin that he would not bear arms. Recognizing the dire situation, Balian was absolved of his oath by Patriarch Heraclius and took command of the city, organizing a defense with only a handful of knights. With limited forces, Balian prepared Jerusalem's defenses, creating new knights from local men. During the siege, after realizing that the city could not hold out, Balian negotiated a peaceful surrender with Saladin. In an act of pragmatism and diplomacy, he threatened that the inhabitants would rather destroy the city and kill each other if no terms were offered for peaceful handover. This forced Saladin to agree to terms that allowed the majority of the Christian population to leave in exchange for ransom payments. Balian himself helped pay the ransom for many who could not afford it. After the fall of Jerusalem, Balian continued to play a crucial role in the Crusader states, participating in the negotiations that led to the Treaty of Ramla in 1192, which ended the Third Crusade and allowed Christians access to Jerusalem. Balian involved himself with politics of the Crusader states for years to come. His skill as a negotiator and his ability to balance military leadership with diplomacy distinguished him as one of the era's most capable Crusader nobles.